seems like this white guy got some information. So.
Now they're starting to get it.
And where, in my opinion, we weren't enough concentrated was Africa. Green energy, hydrogen, geothermal, they've got gas, they've got everything. First of all, Africa is not a poor continent. It's not.
Yesterday's thinking is gone. This is today, 2024. This Africa awareness that has been fomented unlike never before seen didn't happen because Africans were complacent. The West is used to them just playing to the beep, do as we say, adhere by our rules, and so on and so forth. People around the world started taking notice because Africa rebelled against the status quo instead of smiling and waving and giving a courtesy nod. You know what I'm saying? Instead of agreeing with everything the West said, they started raising their fists, shouting and defying all the political norms that the West was used to. They basically reversed the roles, and instead of hearing the lectures of what the Westerners had to say, they started giving the lectures to the West. If the West went left, they went right. If the left went right, they went left. Not just because, but to stay in line with their culture. Nothing shook them last year. Nothing shook them. And the world was watching them the whole time. Henceforth, Newton's third law comes into play. Newton's third law, it simply states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So if object A acts a force upon object B, then object B will exert an yet equal force upon object A. Ladies and gentlemen, we give you Newton's law, the reaction.
And it has to be, taken in account.
Next year, Italy will take the leadership in the G7. What are you expecting? What do you want to see from the other members?
Well, there is a work that we began in the G7 in Japan that, in my opinion, is very important, about supply chains, about the mistakes that we did about globalization. I mean, we thought that free commerce without rules could solve our problems, could distribute richness, and could democratize systems that were less democratic than ours. Didn't happen. And the second thing that happened, it was that systems that were not democratic involved on the institutional side and gained space in the world. Now they are stronger and we are more weak, for we don't control our supply chains. So what we have to do is rethink these times, understand that on strategic things we cannot leave things go. And where, in my opinion, we weren't enough concentrated was Africa. I say it for I'm the direct neighbor, but first of all, Africa is not a poor continent. It's not. It is a continent that has many, many resources. Moreover, rare earth, metals, raw materials, 50% of arable lands. We're not taking care of that. And Africa today is victim of many external spoilers that work against its stability. It is something that can be used against us.
And with regard to Africa, the issue of China comes up.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about that. Is China dominating or trying to dominate the continent and scooping up some of those raw materials and metals that you mentioned that are so critical to technology?
Absolutely, China has an important presence at the time in Africa. And I think it's normal that everyone tries to defend its national interests. The problem is if we are able to do that. I mean, what I don't really agree with is the approach that sometimes the West world had with these countries. For the idea I have is that we are always ready to give advices, but not so ready to give a hand. They don't trust us a lot. And I cannot say that they are completely wrong. That's why my opinion is that we have to change this approach. What I want to do is to bring investments in Africa.
I'm here to sell you something.
In a way that we think.
Is to bring investments in Africa. Bring investments not only to say we want to help. No, that's not geopolitics. If you want to do serious things, you have to do things that are useful for both. For example, now we have a problem in Europe about energy sources after the war. But Africa is potentially an enormous producer of energy, of every kind of energy, green energy, hydrogen, geothermic, they've got gas, they've got everything. So if we help them taking out and producing this energy, and we tie them with Europe, we will solve many problems together.
Is there a conservative movement taking place throughout Europe? We see obviously what has taken place in Italy. We see the performance of the UK. That may be a problem for the Tories. You've got Greece's leadership winning a second term. So do you think socialism is failing in Europe, and are voters now moving toward a conservative approach?
I think that the shocks that we had in the last years, the pandemic crisis before, the war in Ukraine after, created some problems, many problems, and opened the eyes of many citizens about the fact that there is a fundamental difference between the conservatives and the leftists. They want a war that isn't the war they live in, but it doesn't. They don't mind. That is what happens in Europe, in my opinion. So they made lots of mistakes, trying to follow their ideological approach. I think citizens now, they understand this difference, and in tough moments, they want to be governed by somebody who doesn't follow ideological utopics.
Now countries around the world, including in the G7 this year, are very important. And you know why countries around the world are noticing? Because people want fighters. They want to be on a team that stands their ground and has the strength to stand up for what they believe in no matter what. And the countries on the continent of Africa, one by one, started showing their backbone and not backing down. Do you know what's less respected than a bully? Is someone who's scared of him and not standing up to him. Once you stand up to a bully, even if he beats you down, you'll get respect. You'll get respect from the people around watching, and you're more likely to form an alliance with them as well because they know you're fighters. And when they get into it, they know that you'll have their back and they're going to have yours. Trustworthiness, heartstrong, courageous, smart, and can we say, they're wealthy. And they won't back down from bullies. And when the bullies know that you will not back down, they think twice before trying you like a punk. They move on to a weaker victim, somebody that won't fight back. And now, because of that fight that Africa has shown, they've caught everybody's attention. Because when a continent with over 1.4 billion people will begin to fight back, they are by sheer volume a force to be reckoned with. We've been following this movement now, gosh, how long have we been here, guys, following this movement and moving along with you all through last year? And it's been opening the eyes of North Americans, South Americans, Europeans, Canadians, and other areas all over the world now. Going global. And all those other mainstream media outlets are not showing this because they're afraid. But we're not afraid here, right here. No, we'll show it. And what we're seeing right now is so many subscribers coming along and jumping in and following us here, as well as commenting down below and changing the way the old mindsets was into the new mindset that is today. And thank you all. What say you? Let's keep this thing moving, don't you think? 2024 is going to be an amazing year for Africa. The whole world knows.